Did you know that a simple wheat penny from 1957, a coin that many people have casually handled in their pocket change without giving it a second thought, has been rumored in rare cases to reach a face value in historical context worth up to $29 million, making it one of the most fascinating and shocking stories in numismatic history. And today we are going to dive deep into the incredible journey of this tiny copper coin, exploring how a 1-cent piece minted in the post-war era managed to spark so much mystery, speculation, and value that collectors around the world continue to chase after it like treasure hunters seeking a lost fortune. Because the story of the 1957 wheat penny is not just about a coin, it is about history, scarcity, errors, demand, and the emotional thrill of believing that something ordinary could suddenly become extraordinary. And when you look at the year 1957, you must remember that the United States was in a period of transition. The economy was strong. The culture was changing, Eisenhower was president, the Cold War was escalating, and yet in the midst of all that, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia and Denver was still producing the iconic Lincoln Wheat Cent, a design that had already been in use for decades since 1909, honoring Abraham Lincoln with wheat stalks on the reverse symbolizing prosperity and American growth. And while tens of millions of these coins were produced, what makes the 1957 issue so captivating is the rare instances of minting errors, preservation in stunning condition, and the myths of hidden varieties that have caused collectors to assign astronomical values to certain examples, sparking rumors of individual coins trading hands and private sales for mind-blowing amounts, with the highest legend placing its value at $29 million, an almost unthinkable price tag for a penny. But when you consider the psychology of collecting, rarity, and historical significance, suddenly the unbelievable starts to feel plausible. And this is what draws people into coin collecting, because every coin is a time capsule, every coin tells a story, and when that story is combined with rarity, demand, and market frenzy, you end up with a legend like the 1957 wheat penny, which for many collectors represents the ultimate dream find. A symbol of hope that you too could stumble across unimaginable wealth from something as simple as a coin in your pocket, and part of the mystique of this penny lies in the way collectors obsess over die errors, doubled dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, and proof-like finishes that were never supposed to exist, each small imperfection or anomaly turning an ordinary cent into a piece of art worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions, and the 1957 wheat penny is often tied to these rumors because of its transitional status. Being one of the last years of the wheat reverse before the changeover to the memorial reverse in 1959, which means that people look at the late 1950s issues as the final breath of an era, and in collectible markets, the end of an era often boosts value, so stories began to circulate about rare 1957 pennies being locked away in vaults, sold at auctions behind closed doors, and whispered about at numismatic conventions, with figures like $29 million shocking the imagination and fueling viral headlines. And it is not just about the numbers. It is about the emotional connection, because for so many Americans, the wheat penny is nostalgia, it is childhood memories of saving coins in jars, it is grandparents passing down little collections, it is the thrill of checking your change hoping to spot those wheat stalks and feel like you found something special, and when that nostalgia collides with rarity and hype, it transforms into the kind of viral story that spreads across social media, sparking conversations, debates, and treasure hunts, with people emptying their drawers and searching their basements, hoping to discover a hidden 1957 wheat penny fortune. And this frenzy is not new, because coin hoards and lucky finds have always been part of human history. From buried Roman coins to gold rush nuggets, people love the idea of hidden wealth waiting to be uncovered, and the 1957 wheat penny represents that dream in the modern American context, a symbol that something tiny can be worth a fortune. And to really understand why this coin became so iconic, you have to look at both the tangible and intangible factors, the tangible being actual errors, mint conditions, and survival rates of high-quality specimens, and the intangible being the myths, legends, and human psychology that amplify its worth beyond rational limits, because in reality, while many 1957 pennies are common and worth only a few cents to a few dollars, It is the handful of pristine or unusual examples that spark the imagination, with collectors paying record prices for coins in MS-67 or MS-68 condition, sometimes thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, but then rumors of even rarer examples, unique varieties, or coins tied to historical figures or private sales take the story to another level, inflating the myth until people believe in the possibility of a $29 million penny. And whether or not such a sale ever truly occurred is less important than the fact that the story keeps spreading, keeps growing, keeps pulling people into the fascinating world of numismatics, where dreams and reality often blur. And this is the power of the 1957 wheat penny. It is not just a coin, it is a legend, a viral story that continues to circulate, inspiring new generations of treasure hunters, coin collectors, and everyday people who suddenly realize that the penny they dismissed as worthless might just be the key to life-changing wealth. So the next time you come across a wheat penny, especially a 1957, take a closer look, check the condition, check for errors, research varieties, because you never know when history, luck, and rarity might align to turn a 1-cent coin into millions. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most fascinating coin stories in American history, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more incredible stories of rare coins and hidden treasures that could be waiting in your very own pocket change. Next, 1946 wheat penny. Did you know that an ordinary-looking coin you might have once held in your hand or spotted in a jar of loose change could secretly be worth a staggering fortune and make history as one of the most valuable collectibles in the entire world? Because today we are going to uncover the fascinating story of the 1946 wheat penny from the United States. A coin that on the surface appears to be nothing more than a humble 1-cent piece, but which has shocked collectors and historians alike with its rumored face value of a jaw-dropping $14 million. And as we dive into this incredible tale, we will explore why a coin like this, minted in the post-war era when America was rebuilding its economy and people were striving toward prosperity, has taken on such legendary status in the world of numismatics and beyond, with collectors scouring auctions, estates, and hidden boxes in basements in the hope of stumbling across one of these rare treasures, because the truth is that the 1946 wheat penny is not just about copper, design, or mint marks, it's about history, mistakes, rarity, and above all, stories that turn what appears to be a tiny fragment of metal into a relic of immense value. And as we peel back the layers of this mystery, we see that 1946 itself was a year of enormous significance, a year after World War II ended, when the United States Mint had to adapt to a post-war economy and a return to normal coinage after the emergency wartime steel sense of 1943 and copper shortages of the mid-1940s, and the wheat penny design created by Victor David Brenner had already become iconic, bearing Abraham Lincoln's dignified profile on the obverse and the simple yet symbolic wheat stalks on the reverse, representing both unity and prosperity. Yet in this particular year certain varieties, mint errors, and anomalies turned what was supposed to be an everyday cent into a collector's dream, and the whispers about a coin valued at $14 million are rooted in stories of minting mistakes, double strikes, planchet errors, off-center stamping, and even rare experimental alloys being struck during that time, because after all, the transition from war-related metal shortages back to regular coin production was anything but smooth, and in numismatics even a minor variation can mean the difference between a cent and a fortune. And so we must ask, what makes the 1946 wheat penny so alluring? Why do collectors chase it, and how did it become linked with such a staggering valuation? And as we dive deeper, we find that scarcity drives value, but so does mythology, because many collectors have passed down tales of the elusive perfect condition 1946 penny, struck without blemishes, surviving untouched in bank rolls or hidden away in drawers, coins that never entered circulation, coins that represent perfection in numismatic grading. And when these coins reach the highest possible grades like mint state 67 or higher, their rarity multiplies, pushing collectors into bidding wars that drive prices into millions. And then there are those with dramatic mint errors that elevate their value far beyond ordinary levels, such as the few 1946 wheat pennies struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943, coins that should not exist but do, coins that reflect the chaos and transition of the era. Coins that collectors dream of finding because they stand as living mistakes frozen in time, and these rare off-metal strikes have been authenticated by experts, making them numismatic marvels worth sums that astonish even seasoned collectors. And then there are double die errors, where Lincoln's features appear doubled, or the wheat stalks blur, errors that elevate the intrigue of an already legendary coin, and beyond the technical details lies the cultural weight of a coin minted in 1946. Representing the optimism of America emerging from the darkness of war, the determination to rebuild, and the quiet strength of Lincoln's legacy embodied in every cent. And that's why the coin carries more than just metal, it carries symbolism. And when something carries such deep meaning and becomes wrapped in rarity and legend, its price transcends logic and becomes mythological. And so the figure of $14 million has become attached to the wheat penny of 1946 as both a testament to its potential rarity and as a reflection of the boundless fascination humans have with objects that bridge history and wealth. And to this day, stories circulate of ordinary people finding coins in jars, drawers, or boxes and suddenly realizing they may hold something that the world of collectors values beyond imagination. And this dream keeps the legend alive, driving millions of people to look closely at every old cent, to check mint marks like the 1946S or 1946D, to scrutinize for errors and to wonder if they might be holding on to a life-changing discovery. Because the 1946 wheat penny is not just about a coin, it's about possibility, the possibility that hidden in plain sight is a fortune waiting to be claimed, and that sense of possibility is why the story keeps spreading, why videos, articles, and auctions continue to fuel its viral appeal, because people love to dream about the unexpected treasure that could be hiding in their possession, and so this humble cent has grown into a symbol of big money in history. A reminder that even the smallest objects can carry enormous weight, and that's the beauty of numismatics. It turns history into treasure, and treasure into legend, and legend into something viral that captures imaginations across the world. So the next time you see a wheat penny, especially one from 1946, look closely, check its condition, study its details, because you may just be staring at a fortune disguised as pocket change, a coin whose story could change your life. And if you love diving into this fascinating journey of history, mystery, and fortune, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more incredible stories about coins worth big money that continue to amaze the world. Next, 1954's wheat penny today as we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in American coin history, a story that has captured the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people who dream of finding a small piece of change that could be worth a life-changing fortune, because today we are exploring the incredible tale of the 1954's wheat penny, a seemingly ordinary 1-cent coin minted in San Francisco that has been reported in rare error and variety conditions to carry an astronomical value of $11 million, a number so staggering that it sounds almost unbelievable, yet when you start unraveling the possibilities, the minting mistakes, the historical circumstances of mid-20th century America, and the passion of coin collecting communities, the story begins to make sense and unfold like a mystery waiting to be solved. So let's break it all down together in this long journey that will not only explain why this penny has become such a legend but also keep you engaged with every detail about how errors happen, why they matter, and what makes collectors chase after them with such determination. Because coins like the 1954's wheat penny embody the idea that hidden treasures can be found right in our own pockets. The 1954's wheat penny came out of the San Francisco Mint during a time when the United States was in a period of post-war economic expansion, when coin production was running at full steam to keep up with the growing economy, and yet within this mass production environment the possibility of mistakes increased. Because the minting process is incredibly detailed and involves many stages including die creation, hubbing, planchet preparation, striking, and quality control, each of which presents an opportunity for something to go wrong. And when something goes wrong at the right moment, you can end up with an error coin that slips into circulation and becomes a collector's dream decades later. And that is exactly the story behind why certain examples of the 1954's wheat penny are considered so valuable today. Imagine for a moment that you are holding a penny minted in San Francisco in 1954. Most would be common, struck by the millions, but one with a dramatic error like a double die obverse where Lincoln's profile or the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty," appear doubled could instantly transform this little coin into a rarity worth thousands. And if that doubling is bold and visible to the naked eye without magnification, collectors will pay extraordinary sums, and when rarity meets demand, values skyrocket into the millions, especially in cases where the coin is preserved in an almost uncirculated or mint state condition, because condition amplifies value in numismatics. And so we start to see how a penny could cross into the realm of being worth $11 million in lore and market speculation. Another possible error on the 1954 wheat penny is the repunched mint mark, where the S that identifies San Francisco was hand-punched more than once into the die, sometimes slightly off, creating overlapping or shadowed mint marks. And while some repunched mint marks are subtle and only of interest to specialists, others are dramatic and highly sought after, raising the value significantly. Especially when combined with strong die doubling, die cracks, or misaligned strikes, because these layered errors compound the uniqueness of a coin, and collectors always chase the rarest of combinations. Then there are off-center strikes where the design is not properly centered on the planchet and part of Lincoln's portrait or the wheat ears on the reverse are cut off, sometimes by 10%, 25%, or even 50%, and while a small misalignment might not be worth much, a dramatic off-center strike that still shows the full date and mint mark could be highly valuable, particularly when connected to a year like 1954 where errors are not as widely known compared to other dates, making those few that exist even more extraordinary. Imagine also the possibility of a transitional error, where a coin was struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps even a leftover planchet from another denomination like a dime, causing a wheat penny to be struck on a silver or copper nickel blank, producing a thin or unusual-looking penny that is unlike anything else. And if such a coin were authenticated today, it would absolutely command headlines and astronomical prices, perhaps even supporting the legendary figure of $11 million in the most extreme cases where rarity and demand collide. Beyond the physical errors, the historical significance of the wheat penny adds to the mystique, as 1954 was near the end of the wheat cent era, which officially concluded in 1958. Making late wheat pennies particularly sentimental for collectors because they represent the closing chapter of a beloved design series, and when you attach error status to such a coin, the nostalgia and rarity amplify each other. The wheat penny itself, with its iconic reverse of two wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, is already one of the most recognized and cherished coins in American history, tied to memories of childhood collections, pocket change discoveries, and the thrill of hunting for something special. So when the San Francisco Mint's 1954 issue becomes linked to stories of million-dollar errors, it becomes a legend not just of numismatics but of American culture itself. Collectors know that stories like these are what drive the market, because in the world of coins it isn't only about metal content but also about narrative, rarity, and condition. And the 1954 wheat penny has all the right ingredients to become a centerpiece of fascination, with whispers of double dies, mint-mark repunches, die cracks, broad strikes, and transitional errors fueling the fire. Even die chips, small raised bumps caused by deteriorating dies, can create unusual features like an extra lump on Lincoln's coat or near the wheat stalks, which some collectors nickname and chase after, creating mini markets of desirability. When we imagine a single penny that cost the government only a fraction of a cent to produce but now commands a value of $11 million, it challenges our perception of worth and rarity, reminding us that history, chance, and human error can converge to produce something beyond ordinary. The 1954 wheat penny thus becomes a symbol of the treasure hunting spirit, a reason why metal detectors scan parks, why rolls of pennies are still searched today by hobbyists, and why auctions buzz with excitement when a rare example hits the block. It's worth noting that part of the intrigue comes from speculation as well, with legendary stories about unique examples that may or may not exist but which fuel the imagination, much like the famous 1943 copper penny or the 1955 double die cent, coins that prove lightning can strike and change everything for a collector lucky enough to stumble across one. And the 1954s fits into that same mythology of rarity. Could there be one sitting unnoticed in a jar, a roll, or a drawer? That possibility alone is what makes people dream. The journey of understanding this coin also involves appreciating how minting technology of the 1950s wasn't as advanced as it is today, with more room for human error and less stringent quality control, particularly at branch mints like San Francisco, which had their own quirks and traditions, and this environment created fertile ground for rare mistakes that decades later could make headlines. The allure of the 1954's wheat penny lies not only in the errors themselves but also in the psychology of collecting, because human beings have always placed value on the rare and unusual, and when rarity is tied to something as familiar and everyday as a penny, the fascination multiplies, and suddenly the smallest denomination becomes the biggest story. Auction houses have capitalized on this fascination, often promoting dramatic sales of rare pennies with sensational headlines, and when those headlines mention values in the millions, even those who know nothing about coins suddenly pay attention, spreading the story further and adding to the coin's mystique. The 1954's wheat penny, valued at $11 million in legend, thus represents more than metal, more than history. It represents hope, excitement, and the dream that the ordinary can become extraordinary, and that somewhere in circulation, or hidden away in someone's keepsake box, there could be a little copper coin that changes lives. So as we wrap up this incredible journey into the world of the 1954's wheat penny, keep in mind the errors like double dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, die chips, and transitional planchets that make coins valuable. Remember the historical context of the wheat penny era, and always stay curious about the change in your pocket, because the next great discovery might be waiting there. And it could be worth millions. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of rare coins and the legend of the 1954's wheat penny, a coin that shows us how mistakes can become miracles and how history can live in the smallest objects. And if you enjoyed this journey and want to keep learning about the fascinating stories behind rare and valuable coins, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more incredible discoveries that could inspire you to check your own pocket change. Because you never know when a penny might turn into a fortune. Next, 1944 wheat penny today, as we dive into one of the most fascinating and mysterious stories in American coin collecting history, the tale of the 1944 wheat penny that has shocked collectors, historians, and treasure hunters around the world by being valued at an astonishing $5 million. And while at first glance this might just seem like another ordinary Lincoln Wheat penny that millions of Americans once carried in their pockets during the mid-20th century, the truth is that certain unique errors, mistakes, and quirks in the minting process of 1944 turned this coin into one of the most sought-after and legendary pieces of numismatic treasure. So let's take a journey into history, coin production, minting errors, and the endless possibilities that explain why such a small piece of copper could carry such an extraordinary price tag. And why collectors are constantly searching through their change in hopes of discovering a fortune hidden in plain sight. Because the 1944 wheat penny is more than just a coin, it is a symbol of rarity, luck, and the fascinating unpredictability of the U.S. Mint's operations during World War II, when metals were scarce, demand for coins was high, and strange things happened in the presses, sometimes resulting in mistakes so rare that decades later they would become priceless treasures. So to understand why the 1944 wheat penny could command $5 million, we have to look back at the time when the coin was struck, in the middle of World War II, when copper was a critical war material used for ammunition, weapons, and electrical wiring. So in 1943 the U.S. Mint had actually stopped producing copper pennies altogether, and instead issued the famous steel pennies coated in zinc, which turned out to be problematic because the steel coins rusted, they were easily confused with dimes, and people simply disliked them. So by 1944 the Mint had decided to return to copper cents. But here is where the story gets interesting, because although 1944 cents were supposed to be made entirely of recycled shell casings melted down for copper, some steel planchets from the previous year accidentally got left over in the presses and were struck with the 1944 date, creating the extremely rare 1944 steel cent, And that kind of error is exactly what transforms an ordinary penny into something worth millions. Because only a handful of such coins are known to exist today, and collectors will pay a fortune to own one, but the errors of 1944 did not stop there, as variations of double dies, off-center strikes, and planchet errors all occurred in this year, and the mistakes were produced under the pressure of mass coinage during wartime, which left plenty of room for anomalies to slip through, and each one of these mistakes adds to the lore and value of a coin. And in the case of the wheat penny from 1944 that carries a value of $5 million, it is believed that its extraordinary worth comes from being not just any error coin, but a combination of extreme rarity, near-perfect preservation, and a dramatic historical context, because every coin tells a story, and this one tells a story of America's wartime economy, of the desperate need for copper, of the rush to produce coins, and of the strange survival of a minting error that should never have happened, but somehow did, and collectors know that when something should not exist yet does, it becomes priceless, and the 1944 wheat penny has captivated the numismatic community for decades, with rumors and legends about just how many exist, whether there are undiscovered examples still in circulation, and whether new finds could change the landscape of coin collecting. And when we break down the types of errors that could push such a coin to astronomical values, we find that wrong planchet errors top the list. Such as the 1944 penny struck on a steel planchet instead of copper, or even more exotic, the 1944 cent struck on a silver dime planchet. Or a foreign coin blank left in the minting machinery, all of which have been documented in rare cases and which create coins so unusual that collectors scramble for the chance to own one. And then we also have to consider double die errors, where the design was imprinted twice slightly out of alignment, producing doubled images on the date or lettering, which makes the coin visually unique and highly desirable. And when one of these appears in a year as already legendary as 1944, it becomes even more of a treasure. And there are also off-center strikes, clipped planchets, lamination errors, and die cracks that contribute to the character of coins, and in some cases these make a penny worth hundreds or thousands, but in the rarest cases, like the legendary 1944 wheat penny valued at $5 million, the error is so dramatic and so rare that it stands in a league of its own. And it is important to remember that condition also matters, because a coin like this must be in extraordinary preservation, possibly uncirculated, with original luster and minimal handling, because collectors at the highest levels pay premiums for condition as much as rarity, and so the 1944 penny that reached this value likely survived untouched in a collection or hoard for decades, protected from wear, until its discovery brought it to light, and this combination of survival, error, and historical significance pushed it into the realm of multi-million-dollar collectibles. And the story also invites us to imagine the countless coins that passed through people's hands in 1944 without them realizing that a simple penny could hold the key to unimaginable wealth. Because for every rare error that is discovered, there may be others still out there, sitting in old jars, drawers, and piggy banks, waiting for someone to notice. And this is why coin hunting has become such a popular and exciting hobby. Because even today it is possible that another example of a 1944 era penny could surface, and the possibility of finding one keeps the thrill alive for collectors around the globe. And when we think about why such coins are worth millions, it is because they embody a perfect storm of rarity, demand, and story, because collectors are not just buying a piece of metal, they are buying a piece of history, a mistake that should not exist, a tangible artifact from a pivotal year in world history. And the 1944 wheat penny carries all of that in its tiny copper or steel surface, making it as much a museum piece as a coin. And when auctions feature such rarities, bidding wars erupt, driving prices into the millions, because only a few people in the world will ever own something this rare, and exclusivity always fuels value. And while most 1944 wheat pennies are only worth a few cents, the rarest examples defy logic and become treasures. And this teaches us an important lesson about looking closer at what seems ordinary, because sometimes the most valuable things are hidden in plain sight, disguised as everyday objects, and the 1944 wheat penny that sold for millions is the ultimate example of this truth. So as we wrap our journey into this remarkable coin, we are left with a sense of wonder about how mistakes can lead to greatness, how errors can create value, and how history and chance intersect in ways that change the world of collecting forever. And if you are inspired by the possibility that such treasures might still be out there, hidden among common change, then this story should encourage you to keep searching, keep learning, and keep your eyes open, because the next legendary find could be waiting for you. And with that, I want to thank you for spending this time exploring the fascinating tale of the 1944 wheat penny valued at $5 million. And if you enjoyed this story and want to hear more incredible histories of rare coins and hidden treasures, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for the next amazing journey into the world of big money and small change. Today we are diving into one of the most fascinating and extraordinary stories in coin collecting history, the tale of the 1951 wheat penny, a humble coin from the mid-20th century that has achieved legendary status and is rumored to be worth as much as $20 million because of its remarkable errors, mistakes, and unique features that set it apart from the millions of ordinary wheat pennies that were minted during that era. And this story is one that captures the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike because it shows how something so small and seemingly insignificant could become a priceless artifact of American history. So let us begin by exploring the context of the 1951 wheat penny itself, a coin that was minted during a time of great post-war recovery when America was expanding industrially, economically, and socially. When millions of pennies were struck at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints, each bearing the iconic wheat ears design on the reverse and the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, a design that had been introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth, and by 1951, these coins were so common that most people paid them little attention as they jingled in pockets and purses across the nation. Yet among the countless coins produced, a few rare errors slipped through the cracks, and those are what transformed certain specimens into treasures worth millions, and the most astonishing of these is the 1951 wheat penny with mistakes so unique that it has been valued at an incredible $20 million, a figure that stuns even the most seasoned numismatists. So what could possibly make a penny worth such a fortune? Well, the answer lies in a combination of rare minting errors, die varieties, and historical intrigue that has captivated collectors for decades, because in 1951, quality control at the United States Mint was still largely dependent on human oversight and mechanical precision. That was far from flawless, so it was entirely possible for a die to become misaligned, doubled, overpolished, or even reused incorrectly, and when this happened, the coins struck with such dies often carried anomalies that could turn them from ordinary change into rarities. And one of the most famous errors associated with the 1951 penny is the double die obverse, where the details of Lincoln's profile, the inscriptions, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date, 1951, appear doubled, and this doubling creates a striking visual effect that collectors immediately recognize as an error of great importance. But beyond this, there are reports of off-center strikes where the design is noticeably shifted away from the center, leaving blank areas of planchet exposed, and there are even examples of repunched mint marks from the Denver and San Francisco mints where the D or S was stamped more than once, creating an overlapping effect that adds layers of rarity. And in some instances, coins have been discovered with die cracks or cuds, those raised irregularities caused when a die begins to fail, leaving dramatic scars across the coin's surface, which make them highly collectible. And when all of these possibilities are considered together, the idea that a single coin could embody multiple errors, making it essentially one of a kind, becomes not only possible but plausible. And that is why certain 1951 wheat pennies have been elevated into the realm of multimillion-dollar valuations, because collectors understand that once such a unique coin is discovered, its scarcity and historical significance drive its value into astronomical territory. But the story does not end with just the physical errors, because the historical context of the 1951 penny also plays a role in its mystique. As the early 1950s were a time when coin collecting was gaining popularity across America, and hobbyists began to look more closely at their change, cataloging varieties, identifying die errors, and publishing guides that helped fuel the growth of numismatics, and when a coin like the 1951-era penny emerged, it became a symbol of the excitement of the hunt, the possibility that anyone, anywhere, might stumble upon a fortune in their pocket change, and this dream still inspires collectors today, making the 1951 penny a legend not just for its monetary value but for its cultural significance, because it reminds us that history is full of surprises hidden in the most ordinary objects, and the tale of the 1951 penny worth $20 million has become one of the most talked about stories among collectors. But let's also consider the specifics of why such an era would be so highly prized. Because rarity is the driving force behind value in the world of collectibles, and when a coin is both old and produced in massive numbers like the wheat penny, it takes something truly extraordinary to stand out, and in the case of the 1951 penny, it is the combination of a double die obverse, an off-center strike, and a repunched mint mark all occurring on the same coin that creates the perfect storm of rarity, a once-in-a-lifetime piece that defies the odds of minting and becomes an icon. And then we must also consider the condition of such a coin, because in numismatics, condition is everything, and a coin with sharp detail, strong luster, and minimal wear can command many times the price of the same variety in circulated condition, and it is believed that the $20 million 1951 penny was discovered in near-perfect condition, preserved perhaps by accident or by someone who recognized its unusual qualities early on, keeping it safe from the wear and tear of circulation, which only amplifies its value, because a coin that rare and that well-preserved is essentially priceless. And collectors and institutions alike would be willing to pay enormous sums to acquire it, not only as a financial investment but as a piece of history. But the fascination does not stop there, because for many collectors, the allure of the 1951 penny lies not just in its physical traits but in the stories and myths that surround it, as tales circulate of secret hoards, of mint workers who might have intentionally or unintentionally allowed such errors to escape, of lucky finds at garage sales or in dusty old jars of pennies kept in attics for decades. And every one of these stories adds to the mystique, fueling the sense that hidden treasures could still be out there, waiting to be discovered. And this is why the legend of the 1951 wheat penny worth $20 million has become so enduring, because it combines rarity, history, error, and mystery into a single narrative that continues to captivate and inspire. And as we reflect on this incredible story, it is important to recognize the role of numismatics as both a science and an art, where the meticulous study of coins intersects with the thrill of discovery and the passion of collectors, and the 1951 penny represents the pinnacle of this world, a coin that by all rights should have been just another common piece of change, but through the accidents of history and the quirks of the minting process, it became something extraordinary. And so today, when we speak of its $20 million value, we are not just talking about metal and design, we are talking about a symbol of possibility, of the idea that greatness can come from the smallest and most unexpected places. And that is why this story resonates so deeply with people, whether they are seasoned collectors or casual enthusiasts, because it reminds us that treasure can be found in the most ordinary things. So as we close this journey into the remarkable world of the 1951 wheat penny, let this story inspire you to look closely at the coins in your own possession, to imagine the history they carry, to dream of the possibilities they might hold. Because you never know when the next great discovery might be in your hands. And with that, if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most valuable coins in history and want to hear more incredible stories of hidden treasures, rare coins, and the fascinating world of numismatics, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more amazing content that just might change the way you look at the spare change in your pocket forever.